Hey guys, welcome to Mindshift. I'm Dimitri Wakov, your host, and the purpose of Mindshift is to help you create atomic shifts in your mind so that you can create a life filled with prosperity, love, and satisfaction. Today is the beginning of a new month, June 2022, and the topic for this month it will be life of passion. The moment I decided that this would be the topic for the next mind shift, I, in my mind, popped up the first person who popped up is the person who is going to be today with us. And I'm super excited to dive deep into this topic. Just before that, I want to give a very short introduction to her because she deserves it. She's doing a lot of deep work on this topic, and you're gonna hear a lot of things about it afterwards. So, just very shortly, I'm gonna read a lot of it because it's so beautifully written. So I don't want to spoil it. So Karin Lubin is a coach, trainer, exercise enthusiast, driven by the desire to inspire, energize people and teams through the power of love, self reflection, inner and outer strength, clarity, and becoming unstoppable in what matters. Karin collaborates with transformational leaders to create wisdom journals that support people in transition and recovery to a greater clarity, self esteem, and emotional resilience. She uses the seasonal wisdom journals in her quantum wisdom coaching and quantum leap coaching and consulting practices. I know Karin for several years. We were in the same mastermind. I went through some of her webinars and workshops. I've personally been through her work and I really experienced the depth of it. So I want to just hear her words, be here with us, be present with her, because it might transform your life in a really great and positive way. Welcome, Karin, here.
Thank you. Oh, Demi, it's so good to be here with you and see you. I love this. And
Thank
welcome
you.
to everyone who's listening. Thank you.
So tell me a little. Do you have something else to add on what I already said about you?
That is enough. Enough. No, let's dive in.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about uh, how you decided actually. What was the story which met you with this topic of passion? That's really I'm curious about this.
So, in the beginning,
Yeah.
I was a teacher. I was
Mm,
a public school teacher, and then I became an administrator in public schools. So I had a whole career, about 20 years of maybe even more, of being in the public school system. And I remember this moment when I knew I was going to die. I had just been, I think I was the fourth public school administrator, and I saw this legacy of all these other administrators who had had serious health issues. And I realized that I was stepping into kind of a culture, at least in this particular school, that I might get seriously sick. And I thought, it was kind of like the big wake up call when I realized I had been walking around, and I bet many of us know somebody or have had the experience themselves where you're walking around kind of like a zombie. This is my experience. I was walking around kind of with my head cut off from my body. I wouldn't allow myself to feel a lot because it was too scary. I was very numb. I was very numbed out, and I was going through a lot of the motions of doing what I used to love. And I realized at that point that I was really lost. And so I recognized that I needed to get myself out of the situation, especially when I realized that my health could be impacted. You know, once upon a time, I'd had a cancer incident, and I realized that it was this kind of numbing out, diminishment of what was going on with my head and my heart. I needed to actually bring that back, that connection, because my connection to myself was completely gone. So I don't know, Dimi, if you've ever had that
mm,
experience, or maybe the
mm,
listeners have, but it was shockingly scary. It was really scary. And I realized at that time that my mother had just passed away, and she had gifted me just a little bit of money. And I realized I had this bucket list of things that I really wanted to do and travel and go places. And, I just kept writing them down until I finally said to myself at that moment, okay, now's the time. I've got to fill myself up. Because if I don't fill myself up, who is? Right? So I actually took off, released myself from this position. And then what I did is I took a year and I traveled and I went to Belize and I learned how to sail, and I went to Mexico and I studied Spanish, and I went to India and I traveled all over India for months and listened to spiritual masters and heard their wisdom, and just took the time to be with myself and meditate and chant and practice this kind of deep connection. And then I went to the United States again, and I did all these classes really to connect myself on with my body, because I was very disconnected. So I did a year of this. And then one of my passions, or on my bucket list, was this thing to actually work with my husband and start a business with him. And we had just gone through our doctoral program in organizational and educational leadership. And big part of that was mentoring people. So I realized that we could take that part of what I love, which is mentoring, facilitating, supporting people, and bring it into a consulting, coaching business. So we did that. We actually started this company, and I was looking for this tool, like how to bring people in and get to the, just the core of what people wanted to work on, rather than just, hey, how's the weather, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to like get to the heart of the matter with people. So with clients, I was looking for something. I heard about this book called The Passion Test, which is by Chris and Janet Atwood. And I read it, front to cover, and I was like, oh, this is it. Oh my God, this is fantastic. And it was a process to help people get clear about what was important to them and then start making decisions based on that. Now, I actually tried to do the process from the book, and I couldn't get really real with myself. I needed someone to ask me the questions. So anyway, I found that I was invited to this 5-day event conference, and Janet Bray Atwood was actually presenting. And so I went through, to the conference, took her workshop, loved it. And it just so happens that my niece, who was 9 years old at the time, was there. And Janet loves kids. And so she met my niece, Morgan, and she was like, what's your passions? Asking Morgan. And Morgan, 9 years old, just rattles them off. She's just gone through the passion test process with like 400 other people. And Janet, in that moment, had this aha that she wanted to get kids, help them get clear. And the passion test for kids and teens actually was that moment of aha for her. So she created the Passion Test for Kids and Teens program. And, the next day she asked all these, literally 400 people, if they wanted to support families and living their passions. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'd just been in education, right? So I was like, of course I do. And she was like, okay, go to the back of the room. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, I suddenly realized that I was signing up to become a passion test facilitator. But in my heart of hearts, Demi, I knew I had to say yes. It was like, if it can work for a 9-year-old and it can work for a 95-year-old, most likely, this was priceless. It was just like, I got to do it. And I became a passion test facilitator in Toronto, Canada. And then a month later, there was this email from Chris and Janet, and they were asking for a director for their passion test programs. And I thought, I looked at my 5 passions, and it was so cool because, there it is. This is where the rubber meets the road, where you're actually saying yes to your passion. So I looked at my passions, and like 3 of them, this actual job supported 3 of these passions. So I was like, oh my God, working with an inspiring and fun team, working with people from all over the world. I was like, yes, yes, yes. So I just applied, and then lo and behold, I became the director of the passion test programs. And that was kind of an amazing kind of like, what? Because I thought I was doing my coaching business. And what I found is that I kind of took some of the skills that I had from my administrative role and brought it in.
Mm,
And it was like this beautiful fusion, of my skills, my talents, and my passion. And it was like 14 years later, here I am. So,
wow.
uh, you know,
Wow.
yeah. So, and things have changed. Things are changing. I'm actually in the beginning stages of shifting some of this. So, it's been a wild and fabulous ride, and passions are what it's all about. And living my passion and getting even more honest with myself because we're humans and we change. So, what are we
Yeah.
passionate about now today?
Yeah, and I love this idea that you can change them. They're in transition all the time, and you keep check on them. But we're gonna talk that one a little bit later. But the first question I want to ask you is, what is actually passion?
Ah, I love that. Well, to me, passion really is the fire in the belly. It's where you actually feel inspiration, like you light up. When you talk about something or when you think about it, you just go, oh yeah. Like one of my passions is to exercise, and I love to do it. It just makes me feel good. So there's a whole thing about in the Passion Test book by Chris and Janet Atwood that it's the effortless path to your destiny because your passions, if you say yes to your passions, then you are actually living your purpose. And that is such a cool thing. You don't even need to know or be able to speak your purpose. You just follow and say yes to your passions, and you are then living your purpose. It's what brought you into your body, right? And why you do what you do, Demi, and why the listeners are doing what they're doing. That's that I think is really cool because passion and purpose are deeply connected. Now, living your passions, I must say, fire in the belly, all of that is not always easy. So I don't want to make it sound like it's an effortless path. It's effortless because you're in the zone. When you're in that zone, you're just in that zone where you just
Yeah.
time disappears. But it means commitment and persistence. I know that when I was following my passion around creating these wisdom journals, I think that started about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's not like it was just boom. I mean, I downloaded it quickly, but then to get them onto Amazon and figure out how to write it and then co-create it and collaborate with other people, it takes persistence. And it's something that I love and that I continue to go more deeply into. But it does take some persistence and commitment to when you're living your passions. I bet you could say that too, right, Dimi?
Yeah,
Can you?
I definitely can say that, and definitely I am connecting with this idea that this is the feeling you have. I mean, in some way, that this is the thing you're supposed to do right now in your life, and sometimes you don't have a logical explanation why you have it and why this is the thing. Like you decided to go over the world, I guess. Yeah, you had maybe some explanation, but it was not exactly logical and made sense.
Right.
But but you
True.
just do it,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
I've been through almost the same journey, like 12 years ago when I decided to go to Denmark and study coaching, and at the beginning work as a dishwasher because I had to make some money, and I was leaving a job which was I was about to become a CEO of the company and stuff, and I decided to leave it for that. But that was what for me was, as you said, the passion. This was a passionate. I was passionate about personal growth and coaching. And I knew that this is my destiny, that this is the thing I'm supposed to do to serve the world.
Mm.
And it didn't make sense to do
Mhm.
it on 20 when I was 20 something, based on the cultural traditions and stuff and beliefs here.
Mm.
I just wanted to ask you. I'm sure that some people are a little bit confused on that. So how do you know the difference between that you are making sense of it? You know that when you make it rational and when it is really your passion. Uh, is there something you can suggest that makes sure that it's passion?
Absolutely. First of all, when you are experiencing or thinking about this thing that you're passionate about. So, one of my passions is being spiritually rooted in nature and self love practices. That's my number one passion. So, I love to be in nature. How do I, so when I think about this, I feel joy. I feel great peace. I feel tension just release from me. I mean, there's a lot of body sensations and feelings that I'm having that tell me that this is it. And, the passion test process is a beautiful tool to integrate the mind with the heart. And so there's this connection. And what I was telling you before in my story is that I was very disconnected. So having my mind with my heart, which is like also my body, is really important because I don't know about you, but I know that a lot of people that I have worked with often find themselves numbed out or like they're missing something. There's like something that they're missing. That thing that you're missing is where you need to look at if there were no shoulds or have tos in your life. If you had all the money in the world, if you had all the time in the world, what is it that you would be doing, feeling, or having? Some people just want to feel at peace, right? I mean, that's a beautiful passion to have. Some people, want to travel first class. Some people want to have the most profound, beloved relationship of their life. All of this is perfect. There's no right or wrong, by the way, when you write down the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
And what we do when we're as facilitators of the passion test, we suggest there's 8 different areas to look at, like relationships, spirituality, legacy, giving, volunteering, that kind of thing, um, your physical environment, your health, right? And so we look at all education, we look at career, we look at all these areas, and then you as a person who is trying to get clarity, because to me this process is about clarity, and when you have clarity, you have power. T. Harv
Yeah,
Eker
clarity.
says, "Go ahead, say it."
No, what I was saying is this is definitely clarity's power, and people know that, and this is super 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 important for people to understand, and your process, which we're gonna talk a little bit later about it. It's really really something which I've experienced myself, and
Mhm.
it was leading my life for the last several years because I got really more clear about what I want to do.
Mm.
Let's go to the second topic we have for today,
Okay.
which is the importance of being passionate.
Mm.
So that's something. So people say, okay, you're a passionate person, but um, why is that important? Isn't it more important to have money, to have family, to have job, and to have health, whatever? Why passion?
So, so let's just say that passion is connected to all these things that you just mentioned: job, security, financial support, or abundance. It's not like we're saying be passionate and let go of being a responsible adult. That is
Yeah.
not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that if you can't find something that you absolutely find that let's go to even like, if you like something, because some people I know I've met who are like, I don't love anything. And I'm like, okay, got it. So if you like something or if you love something, however you want to say it, what is that thing? And are you allowing yourself to receive it, to gift yourself the time or whatever it is to actually experience some of that? Because you just said something earlier to me about a passion of yours, which is dancing, social dancing. And that to me, like if you didn't do that, I bet you wouldn't feel as excited about your life. There would be
No.
something missing, right? Because that feeds you in a certain way, with connection, being in your body, um, joy, whatever it is of that experience of dancing, and that's what we want people to tap into. So, the listeners, if you can think of something that you really love and you're doing it, then you are actually already living a passionate life. It's when you are denying yourself that thing or those things or that feeling or that whatever that experience is. And I'm not saying that, if you want to become uh, travel first class and you don't have the money in this moment, you just get the clarity first that you want to travel, right? And that you want to travel first class. And wow, that sounds so fun. Like, yes. Then when you just start to stay open, there's a formula in the passion test world, and it's intention, attention, and no tension. The intention is getting the clarity about what your passions are, consciously choosing what you want in your life, right? That's when they can start to show up. The attention is you start to put attention on those things, right? So if it was for you, the dancing, now you start to look for classes. Now you start to hear, oh, there are these events where I can actually do these things. Oh, so cool. And you start to say yes to them. That's a big piece. You have to say yes. And then the no tension piece is you just go, okay, it might not show up exactly the way I thought it would, but I'm going to stay open. So maybe instead of you finding a class, someone comes up to you and says, hey, Dimi, I need a dance partner in this super cool event. And would you do it? And you're like, whoa, I never thought I'd be doing that, but here I am. And then you say, yes, right? Because that's the key. There's a quote from Janet Bray Atwood: whenever you're faced with a choice, a decision, or an opportunity, choose in favor of your passions. So I think before we were talking, and it might have been before we were being recorded, that when you are loving yourself, there's something about self love here. When we don't say yes to what is important to us that feeds us, we are abandoning ourselves. And that to me is the greatest disservice we can do to all humanity, because then your gifts don't shine through because you're denying who you really are. And our passions do change. It's not like, you might have one passion and it stays exactly the same. It might not. Let me give you an example. My passion for training, for teaching. Once I was a teacher. Then I was an educator. I'm now a coach. I'm also a master trainer in the passion test world, and we train people to become facilitators. But that's a real, I was working with kids, and now I'm working with adults. And I love to facilitate groups of people. And that's to help them to educate and learn more about themselves, to find their own inner wisdom. So there's a thread, right? It just might sound and look differently throughout the years. So the most important thing is to just, like for you, Demi, what is one thing that lights you up, that makes you just sparkle? Like you just think about it and you go, besides social dancing, because I heard salsa and something
Bachata.
cha-cha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else?
I mean, that's a great question, and while I was listening to you, I was just the thing which is coming in my mind is love and connection, because love and connection is definitely has been my passion, my need, my very important need in life, and what I'm doing in life, like dancing, like coaching, um, being with friends out there, and being in nature fulfills in a way this passion of love and connection,
Hmm.
because this is what, as you said, lights my spirit, my body, my mind, everything.
Right.
So I just um, wanted to share that the importance, because the importance of being passionate and following and living your passions, in my opinion, is that you become, in a way, not just in a way, just more connected with yourself, with your true nature. And when you become more connected with yourself, you really get this drive and motivation and inspiration to live your life to the fullest. And because I've been in, I think most of the people being in the other place when you don't want to do anything, procrastinate and self-sabotage yourself and all of the other
Yeah.
things.
Hmm.
and and for me, literally, the difference came when I started connecting with myself and following my passions. Before that, I didn't know it's passion, but it was a passion,
Yes.
like personal growth, like coaching, like dancing, like we said, like singing. Music is something very important
Mm-hmm.
for me.
Hmm.
And all of this were, the overarching thing was love and connection.
Hmm.
And all of these were kind of, I think you call it like markers or something,
Yes.
which is giving you the chance to live your passion to the fullest. And that's the thing. And I just want to say, for people out there who really are connected with this love and connection, that we believe that the only way to have it is to have an intimate relationship. And for me, that was a big challenge, because I thought that that's the only way to have it, and you become attached to it,
Right.
or to the person who is next to you, right?
Hmm.
So that's my journey, and that's why I want to share, connected with the passions, that you can do it through many ways if you understand what's the reason, what is the overarching thing. And yeah, that's very important for me. Living your passion, this motivation, this inspiration, this zest for life, it will
Hmm.
come alive automatically when you start living your passion, I think.
Yes, and I think it's also important that you mentioned a couple of things that I want to like go back
Yeah.
to because they're really good. You talked about markers in the passion test process. When and if somebody was to go through that process, they get clear about the 5 things that are most important to them, and then they take those passions, and you then write down like 3 to 5 things that are the evidence of what that passion might look like, right? So that
Yeah.
then you, so it's not just some, thing in the sky, like, oh, I don't know, passion. It's so global. It's so like love and connection. What the heck is that? Well, you just brought it down into a relationship,
Yep.
right? So then it becomes this relationship. And now then you said something about like maybe the attachment to it might be actually painful. And that's that no tension. Remember, we talked intention, attention, no
Mm.
tension. That no tension piece then is where we want to release our expectations. And by doing that, then we're able to open up to anything because maybe the love and connection is to yourself and you miss that completely,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're like only focused on somebody and something outside of you. And then you're like,
Yes.
wait a minute, whoa, stop. So
What's happening?
that's right. So being able to actually stay open. And to me, I'm very much, this is why we are connected, is because to me, connection is foundational to all the coaching and the work that I do. And I often am asking people, so when you're doing something, ask yourself, do I feel connected? And if you don't, and it's like, do I feel connected to myself? Yeah. Okay, good. Or do I feel connected to this person? Oh, actually, no. So, what do I need right now in this moment to feel connected? Because I think you're right on, Demi, with the understanding that when we don't feel connected, there's a real loss that we can experience, a loss of knowing who we are, of feeling like there's something missing,
Yes.
and that can, that's the depression comes out of this. A sense of grieving, loss. And I've been doing actually a lot of work around the grieving process because I've found that a lot of people who are depressed are actually, depression can often be that we have not grieved for something. And it could be as small as, a loss of a place, which could be very big, actually. And it could be also, the loss of a person or an animal, or it could be the sorrow of the world and the impact of the world. It could be just, the loss of, you had a plan for that day and it didn't happen. And
Yes.
there's a lot of ways in which we grieve, but we don't actually give ourselves permission to grieve. And so I have been finding this dance of grief is actually a beautiful way to stay awake, just as much as being in joy and with our passion. We have to have it all. It can't be one or the other, it's both and. So to me, experiencing all of these, and again, it always comes back to the feeling level for myself, because this is where I experience the feeling. When I numb out, and numbing out is, sometimes it's an appropriate thing that we need to do. It's a strategy. But once I can pay attention to being numb, then I can go, okay, so what's underneath that being numb? Like what might I be feeling? And
Yes.
then I go, oh, I'm feeling sad. Okay, what am I feeling sad about? And I like literally am just staying curious with myself and asking. And I often write, this is where I'm journaling, because I find that when I journal, and even when we're writing out our passions, we're writing them down. We're making it more real when we write something down on paper or we type it on a document. That's when it's like, oh, this is a real thing. So that's a very powerful process. And then, I mean, I could go into a whole nother thing about how
Yeah.
to help people around understanding how to move from contraction to expansion, because there's besides of passion test formula, there's also this process of nature's guidance system. And maybe that would help. So, Demi, if that would help, I can go into that. And if not, I can talk about it a little later.
Yeah, if you want, we can talk a little bit later. So let's go back to the. Even though I'm super excited about it, I mean, when you start talking about it, I just got interested to talk. So let's see where we're gonna put it. But even we can do another episode. I mean, that's an option. We can talk on this topic. So let's go to the third one for today, which is um, actually how to find your passions. I
Yeah,
mean, you
that's a good
started
one.
talking something about it because it's so. What now we know they're important. They what is passion, but how to find them?
Yeah, no, such a good question. So that's when I was mentioning these 8 different kind of categories, health, relationships, career, physical environment, service, all of these areas. That's where you look to say, okay, so what is it that I want now? Right? Because you don't want to look at what you did 10 years ago and say, oh, well, I loved it once. Well, no, just check in with yourself and go, yeah, what I'd really love to do is walk and take hikes. Like, I'd love to do this hiking trail, or, and then you notice that there's like, there's this moment where you just like, there's your breath gets taken away, or you just go, oh, yeah, that would feel so good. So sometimes it's like wow. Or you just like ground yourself and go, yes, that's it. Like you have a knowing. So when you write these things down, you write them in the positive. and in the
Mm.
present moment. Not like I will, but I am. And that's very different because when you're saying I will, you're like futurizing everything and then you're not there. And what we're trying to say is you can have these passions now, right now. There's no, the only person that's getting in your way is you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so then you ask these, you write down like 10 to 15 things, and you also write them. When I say write them in the positive, let's say I've had a really bad experience with, like, I've worked by myself and I couldn't stand it. Okay, let's just make this up. And so I don't want to say I don't ever want to be working on my own. I want to say I work with a phenomenal, inspiring team of like-minded people. Okay, because that's what I actually want. But sometimes you have to go to what you don't want, like you've had that experience, and then you flip it and you go to what you now want, right? So that's a very important thing. You write that down and then you ask yourself, or a facilitator, because I'm one of those people that I needed to be asked the questions. There's 3 questions that in the passion test process you can ask yourself if you get stuck. So the first question is, um, if you could, um, if you're actually asking yourself these questions to yourself, you're going to say, um, "Oh my God, I just lost the question. Oh, that is so funny. All right, well, there you go." So I'm like stumbling over myself. Um, I'm coming up with a second question. So um,
Yeah, that's all right.
that's so funny. Oh my God,
Yeah.
this is the first time I've ever done that. All right, it'll come. All right, which I got it. Which feels
Yeah.
better? So number 1 is which feels better. Number 2, which is the one that kept coming to my mind, is if you could have whatever that passion is, you go down your list and you take your first passion and the second one and you compare them. If I could have this passion but not this other one, or if I could have this other one and not this one on top, which one feels better? You would then look at which feels better and you listen to your heart. And in that moment, then you make a choice. And the questions are based on actually forcing you to really make a decision. And it could be uncomfortable. And people are like, oh no, oh no, 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 I don't want to. Like, that means that I'm denying another one. So the beautiful thing about this process is that even once you come up with your 5 passions, and the other ones are still there. The other ones then we bring back to work out into our markers.
Yeah.
So that markers is the second step. And so nothing gets lost, which I love, because then we're really honoring all these things that you have taken the time to say are important to you. So I love that. And then there's a third question, which helps you to imagine, like if a person is really stuck, then you just invite them to close their eyes and you help them to imagine. And they see themselves living that one passion, but that other one is not in the picture. And then you put that image aside. And then you have them visualize the other passion and living that full out, but not the one that their first one. And then you then ask them, so which feels better? And then they get the clarity. It's amazing. I mean, I've done this with kids, I've done this with adults. Everyone seems to get the concept that, okay, there's one that feels just a little bit better, and that's the one that they choose. So it's a really powerful process. And then
Yeah.
remember so you find your 5 passions, okay, or the things that are most important to you. Some people don't like the word passion. So whatever way you want to say that, these are the things that are most important to you right now. Okay. And then what you do is you now say, whenever you're faced with a choice, a decision, or an opportunity, choose in favor of your passions. That's the secret to this whole thing. I mean, it's not a secret, and yet it's a secret because
Yep.
you were saying at the very beginning something about the shoulds and you have tos. And when we're living our passions, we are saying no to the things that distract us. So if I was looking at my phone all the time doing social media, what I really wanted to do is be outside taking a hike, I'm going to say no to the social media and maybe shorten the time or do whatever I need to do and then take the time to go outside.
Mm, mm,
And I can actually give you an example that when I first started, and this is like 14 years ago, I had my 5 passions, and I noticed that my passion around doing exercise, I constantly said no. And I was like, what's the deal with this? Why do I keep saying no to exercise? And I remember I went up to Chris Atwood and I was like, what am I doing? Like, is this not an important passion? Is that why I'm not doing this? And he said, well, maybe look to see if there's any beliefs that are getting in your way, limiting beliefs. And I looked and I finally went, oh my God, yes. I had this idea that if I was to exercise, it had to be for an hour or more. So if I didn't have an hour, I just said, no, I can't do it. So then once I realized that, it was like my big aha, because then I said, no matter what, I'm going to take 5 minutes, even if it's to stand outside and breathe some fresh air, or I'm going to take a half hour. I'm going to do something and always say yes to this passion. Totally changed my feeling about it. I then started to feel completely in alignment then with all my passions, and that is when I went yes, because you really get this yes feeling when you're saying yes to all of them. And they show up differently. It's not like I go, okay, this is my number one, so I must say yes to this. I just allow the universe to show things to me for the day. And then I look and go, is that going to take me closer to living my passions? And if it is, I say, absolutely, heck yes. And if it's going to take me away from my passions, I say, no, thank you. And
wow.
that's still a learning curve for, I think, me, for sure, because my passions change and then I have to get honest and real with myself. And it's beautiful to be able to go, yeah, I am so, feeling that alignment that it kind of, it's like a chink, 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 and everything kind of all lines up and you go, wow, feeling it's like living a good life. And I might be doing a job that I like. I might not love it, but everything starts to, I'm telling you, it just shifts and lines up so that you feel good about your life and the purpose that you have, because you can start to find what is purposeful in your life by living your passions, and that's so key.
Absolutely, Karin. Wow. Everyone who is listening to that, try the process and see what are your passions. And you can even comment and just share with us what if you have some challenges around it. We can help with that. So let's move on to the last topic for this month. So the topic is how we stay passionate. So we are passionate now. We know our passions, but we know that the discipline to stay passionate, or that we need to do something in order to keep doing what we do
Right.
and be
So
connected with it.
yes, and I think that when you are feeling passionate, it's because you're still saying yes to that passion. Okay, so the quickest way to not be passionate is to say no to yourself. So to stay in alignment and say yes, that's the key. Even if it's you're just saying yes to the opportunity to one day to travel, even if it's not in your life at this moment, you're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start to plan for this trip, even if it's like a year out. That's taking some yes steps to like, yeah, one day this is going to be happening. I love this. Oh, this feels good, and you're like, where am I going to go? Oh yeah, I've always wanted to go to this place. And you start to take these small little action steps, right? Because again, I think that's very important, is taking action. Action engages attention, and that's when you put your attention on what you love, then you're doing, and feeling Like, yeah, this is good. But here's the thing, sometimes your passions change. Remember, I said that because we're human. And, the passion that you might have had, Demi, like 10 years ago, might not be the same thing as it is today, which is totally
Yeah.
fine. That's natural. I actually suggest to people that every 6 months to a year, you go through the passion test process. You can, the book that's behind me, I don't know if you can see it, that orange red book right
I
there.
can see. Yeah, yeah, we can see it.
That's the passion test book. Buy it, read it, see if you can take the passion test process by reading the book. I could not. That's just me. I'm one of those people. You need a facilitator, and I think, Demi, your statement of writing down what people
Mm,
have questions about, I'm happy. You myself could help, or ask for a passion test facilitator and
yeah.
see if you can find one because they're all around the world. And so I think getting and updating your passions, because even tweaking one word
Yeah.
in your passion could make it feel like, instead of, and trying to inspire humanity, you're like, yeah, okay, that was once that felt really good, but now it doesn't. Maybe it's you're inspiring bazillions of people, and all of a sudden you're like, wow. So the verbs or the adjectives, you're making it present. You're giving descriptive words to your passion sentence. And again, your sentence is not a long, drawn out thing. It's like 5 to 7 words, right? So you want some descriptive words, but you might need to tweak it and change it and upgrade it to how you feel today. What words make you, like, I like to use the word juicy. It's kind of like, ooh, makes
Juicy is a
you,
great word.
ooh, yeah. And so those are the words you want to use in your passion list, and that's when you upgrade every 6 months to a year. I have um, a ongoing yearly ritual that I do with my husband. We go for 3 to 4 days away, and we take ourselves with our books and our pads and our pens, and we write down and give each other. We're both passion test facilitators, and we give each other the passion test and take each other through and kind of update ourselves. And that way we're supporting, and I know what his passions are, he knows what mine are, and we can support each other through the year. It's a beautiful thing that we do together. And it's a visioning, and we vision what we want. Once we know what our passions are, very helpful to know, so that we can then get that clarity to move forward for that year. So I love that, and that's something that I would suggest everyone do, is to to get a process. And maybe for some, it's actually, cutting out images and putting it into a vision board. That could be your way of finding out what makes you passionate. Sometimes imagery can speak very loudly to people. So we do vision boarding as well with the passion test, but maybe you start with the images first. So, we all have to go with what feels good for each of us.
Absolutely. And just I wanted to add on what you already said. I know you actually said it a little bit earlier in the conversation that actually one of the biggest obstacles sometimes to follow the passions and to stay passionate are some limiting beliefs. And because sometimes we get confused. Okay, we are in the process, someone is there with us, we get excited about it, we feel connected, but when we go out in the world, we are
Mm-hmm.
again in our world with the people around us, with the
Mm-hmm.
situations, and several weeks after, months after, you just feel okay, that doesn't feel right. But the reason for that was sometimes might be because the passion is changed, with a
Mm-hmm.
different passion, but or you can need to tweak the word. But sometimes it's just there is some belief, like you shared in your case, you have around it, which can stay on the way of being totally devoted and committed to it. So it's a great question. The person who you told that he was the husband of
Yes,
right?
Randy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So whatever, just ask this question. Um, what is your is there some limiting belief? What do I believe around this topic? What's my common belief which I have around it? Because uh, it, we always have something around relationships, money, career. They're like so touchy-feely topics for us very often. So these are some of the reasons why we cannot be connected to it. But don't give up. Just explore and be really curious about it. I think that's one of the things which I want to say.
That's great. And I also realize that one of the things that you're kind of tapping into is that we often want to please the people around us. I don't know about you, but I'm a pleaser. And so a
Same here, yeah.
big, yeah. So, we want to be accepted. We want to be loved, blah, blah, blah. And that's a good thing. And when we give ourselves up, and this is that self-abandonment piece, when we give ourselves up and say, well, what you're saying matters more than what I say, that's when we give up. And that's when we're giving up our passions and
Yeah.
we're saying what you say matters more. We're never going to feel real peace. I mean, we might feel good up to a point, and then there's going to be that gap where we go, oh, I just didn't hit it, like I'm going through the motions again. And you absolutely deserve it, because some people say, well, the passion test is kind of a selfish thing. So here's the thing I would ask you, or anyone listening, is that, do you want to be a model for your kids, for example? Or do you want to show them how to basically give up yourself? So do you want to
Yes.
be a model of someone living their passions and loving your life, or someone who kind of says, walk over me and walk on me, and I don't deserve it? So I really think that it's so important that we model behavior and a belief in ourselves, which is a healthy belief. This is not a selfish belief.
Yeah.
We're kind of on the extreme of thinking selfish. I'm not talking narcissistic
No.
selfishness. I'm talking about, like, there's a spectrum, and I'm saying come back to the center. Come back to your center and listen to yourself. Say, I love you, and I love you, and I love me. And when we do that kind of thing, then there's a reciprocity and a gift that keeps giving. And that's a beautiful thing, because you're saying, and you're including both. And so that's a very important piece, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely, Karin. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today. It was really, I mean, we could go in so many other directions, and I'm sure we're going to have another conversation around additional topics we opened up today.
Good.
Yeah, it's definitely that is going to happen. So you can share how people can connect with you if they want to ask some questions around your expertise about passion test and passion in general, or your work you're doing with the quantum leap
Sure.
journals and stuff. So how they can?
They can reach me at Dr. Dr. Karin Lubin, Lubin. So drkarinlubin.com.
Okay,
There you go.
cool.
And you can just look up my name. It's there you can see it at the bottom corner on my screen. And you just look up DR, or look up KarinLubin.com. Either way, you'll find me. I'm happy to answer any questions. There are, if people are like, yeah, I want to do this, like I want to help other people find their passions, you can also go to thepassiontest.com, which is Janet Bray Atwood's page website, and that also gives a lot of information about becoming a facilitator of the process. So, and I can help with that as well. So I would just love it, Demi, if there was a question that I could ask people is, are they feeling connected, and are they feeling passionate? And if not, then they need to talk to us.
Lovely. And I think that's a great end of this conversation. A great words, people. Think about these questions, and when you feel the genuine answer in you, just act on it with clarity and with determination. Thank you, Karin, and have a lovely, lovely week. Bye.
Thank you.